The secret behind José Mourinho's shocking fall is not what you think. I uncovered the exact moment his own players stopped trusting him. A hidden dressing room betrayal that changed everything. You will not believe the real reason his methods stopped working. Stick to the end to discover the one person he blames for his entire downfall. Cristiano Ronaldo refused to look at José Mourinho in the Real Madrid dressing room. Sergio Ramos spoke in whispers to Florentino Perez. Iker Casillas sat on the bench not because of form, but because José Mourinho believed loyalty to Barcelona players made him unworthy of trust. This was the first time his greatest strength control turned on him.
Me, Diego López, me gusta más como portero que Iker Casillas. Es simples.
The same dressing rooms that once followed him like soldiers now questioned every command he gave. But José Mario dos Santos Mourinho Felix was not built from doubt. He was built from Porto, where Deco, Ricardo, Carvalho, and Costinha ran through defenders like men possessed. He created tactical periodization, demanded absolute discipline, and made them believe they were invincible. They won the UEFA Cup, then the Champions League, and José Mourinho stood on the Old Trafford touchline after eliminating Manchester United, already knowing England would be his next empire. At Chelsea, he didn't ask for respect. He declared he was the special one. Claude Makelele shielded the defense like a silent guardian. Frank Lampard arrived late into the box with deadly precision, and John Terry organized the backline with iron authority. Didier Drogba wrestled center backs and turned scraps into goals. 95 league points, 15 goals conceded. Chelsea were a machine of certainty. Yet Roman Abramovich wanted elegance, not efficiency. So Andriy Shevchenko and Michael Ballack arrived not to reinforce José Mourinho's system, but to disturb it. Michael Ballack and Frank Lampard fought for the same spaces. Andriy Shevchenko disrupted the natural rhythm of Didier Drogba's dominance. When Mourinho chose the players who bled for him over the players who cost millions, he was pushed out. He did not fade, he evolved. At Inter Milan, Javier Zanetti, Esteban Cambiaso, Walter Samuel, and Wesley Sneijder became his disciples. Samuel Eto'o, one of the greatest strikers in the world, was asked to defend as a left winger. He obeyed. José Mourinho dismantled Europe's giants, silenced Camp Nou with 10 men, and sent Bayern Munich home in the Champions League final. In that moment, he did not celebrate like a man who had conquered football. He cried like someone who knew he could never build a family like Inter Milan again. Real Madrid offered him something different, not affection, but war. His mission was to break Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. He built a team of perfect balance, Xabi Alonso dictating tempo, Sami Khedira covering every blade of grass, Angel Di Maria running like electricity, Cristiano Ronaldo turning every half chance into a goal. 100 points, 121 league goals. Barcelona were no longer untouchable. Yet, while the Bernabeu roared for him, something in Mourinho fractured. Instead of forming walls around his players, he began tearing them down from within. Iker Casillas was exiled. Pepe and Sergio Ramos questioned his tactics. Cristiano Ronaldo no longer saw a mentor, but a man consumed by conflict. The unity died before the trophy stopped. Chelsea brought him back, believing the old magic would return. It did, for a while. Eden Hazard became unstoppable. Cesc Fabregas sprayed passes like artillery fire, and Diego Costa bullied defenders until they broke. They won the Premier League, and José Mourinho stood on the pitch, proud and certain that destiny still belonged to him. But one argument changed everything. Eden Hazard went down injured in stoppage time against Swansea City. Team doctor Eva Carneiro ran onto the pitch to treat him. Instead of gratitude, Mourinho called her naive, accused her of not understanding the game situation, and humiliated her in public. The dressing room shifted. Players spoke less. Eyes avoided his. Diego Costa threw his bib at him during a match. Results collapsed. Chelsea, defending champions, fell near the relegation zone. When he was sacked, not even John Terry could defend him. At Manchester United, he promised what they craved, not beauty, but victory. Paul Pogba arrived for a record-breaking fee. Zlatan Ibrahimovic joined with experience and ego. Mourinho used Marwan Fellaini as a weapon, Juan Mata as a drifting creator, Marcus Rashford as a blade of pace. They won the Europa League, the League Cup, and José Mourinho declared that poets do not win trophies. But the applause did not last. Pogba wanted creativity. Mourinho wanted obedience. He called Luke Shaw mentally weak. He called Pogba a virus in front of the team. When people questioned his football, he said he had more Premier League titles than all other managers in the league combined. Manchester City broke records. Liverpool pressed with fury. Manchester United became a monument to the past. When he was dismissed, there were no tears, only exhale. Tottenham Hotspur came next, not because he had changed, but because expectations had. He found Harry Kane, Son Heung-min, and a club starved of silverware. He parked the bus, relied on counterattacks, and reached a League Cup final, then was sacked 6 days before it. His methods worked in bursts, but the world no longer waited for bursts. Football changed. It did not. Even so, when AS Roma called, he went. Rome gave him what he had lost: adoration. Crowds filled streets, chanting his name. He gave them the UEFA Europa Conference League, their first European trophy in decades. But the volatility followed. He accused Rick Karsdorp of betrayal. He called referees thieves. He was suspended more than any coach in Italy. Yet when he left, fans cried. Because even broken, José Mourinho gave them something no one else could believe. And yet, the legacy that began with Porto, that soared at Inter Milan and Real Madrid, lives with contradiction. He was the man who said he would die for his players, then became the man who destroyed them in press conferences. He created families, then shattered them. José Mourinho stopped being special not because the world turned on him, but because he turned on the very principles that made him special. Paul Pogba's words, spoken after a draw against Wolverhampton Wanderers, echoed like a verdict across Manchester. Manchester United should attack at Old Trafford. Attack, attack, attack. José Mourinho heard not criticism of tactics, but defiance. Days later, in training, he stripped Paul Pogba of the vice captaincy. Cameras captured Mourinho's cold stare as he told Pogba, "You don't play, you don't speak." The fracture was complete. What began at Real Madrid, the turning of fire inward, had now become routine. But this was not always his way. In his early years, at Porto, he spent nights studying opponents until he could predict their movement before they made it. He wrote scouting documents detailing where Ronaldinho would turn his body, how Xavi Hernandez would rotate his hips, where every pass from Barcelona's midfield would land under pressure. His players believed not because he demanded loyalty, but because he proved he deserved it. He invited them into a battle where he stood at the front. He created not teams, but tribes. At Inter Milan, Esteban Cambiaso once said he would throw himself under a bus if José Mourinho asked him to. Wesley Sneijder, ignored at Real Madrid, became a Ballon d'Or contender under him. Samuel Eto'o, a Champions League winner, ran 60 yards back to defend fullbacks with pride. They were not hostages to his will, they were believers. But belief only survives when it is reciprocal. When he left Milan, he kissed Marco Materazzi, both of them in tears, because he knew he was walking away from something he could never replicate. He tried. At Real Madrid, he waged war against Pep Guardiola's Barcelona, not only tactically, but psychologically. His press conferences became weapons. He spoke of unfair referees, conspiracies, and enemies. But where at Porto and Inter this built unity, at Madrid it bred paranoia. He pushed Iker Casillas out because he believed he was too close to Barcelona players. He fought with Sergio Ramos over defensive positioning. He told reporters that critics expected him to perform miracles, while others were praised for failure. The victories were enormous. The cost was larger. His second Chelsea spell was a mirror cracking in slow motion. Eden Hazard won Player of the Year. Nemanja Matic shielded like an iron wall. But instead of protecting them, he began turning his lectures on them. When he accused Eva Carneiro of being naive for attending to Eden Hazard, it wasn't just a medical dispute. It was a message to the squad: trust me or leave. But instead of uniting them, it silenced them. Players stopped running for him. the board stopped defending him. He walked out of Stamford Bridge, not as a hero, but as a reminder that brilliance without restraint can become destruction. Tottenham Hotspur was different. There was no John Terry, no Javier Zanetti, no Deco. There were no warriors forged in iron. There was talent Harry Kane, Son, Heung-min, but no foundations carved from loyalty. He told Amazon's cameras during the All or Nothing documentary, "Nice guys do not win." Yet football was no longer a place where brutality alone could conquer. Pressing systems, positional play, inverted fullbacks, modern football was evolving into something scientific. Mourinho still demanded sacrifice, but players no longer believed sacrifice guaranteed glory. Roma gave him one last chance to be mythic. Crowds filled the streets as he arrived. He lifted the UEFA Europa Conference League, not because it was a great trophy, but because it gave broken fans something to believe in. Lorenzo Pellegrini cried in his arms. Tammy Abraham ran to him after every goal, like a son to a father. But even there, his shadow followed. He accused Rick Karsdorp of betrayal. He called referees thieves in post-match interviews. He was suspended more times than any coach in Serie A during his spell. Roma loved him, but also feared what he had become. This transformation from a man who shielded his players to a man who used them as shields was not sudden. It was erosion. At Porto, he hugged Deco. At Inter, he embraced Marco Materazzi as if losing a brother. At Real Madrid, he stopped hugging. At Chelsea, he started blaming. At Manchester United, he started naming. At Tottenham, he started isolating. At Roma, he started grieving a version of himself that no longer existed. Still, to say José Mourinho stopped being special would be to misunderstand what special meant. Special was never about perfection. It was about control, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond between a leader and his men. But as football evolved, with high defensive lines, pressing traps, positional rotations, his loyalty to pragmatism hardened into stubbornness. Where once he adapted, now he resisted. Where once he built, now he defended. He used to protect his players from critics. Now he became one. The saddest truth is that the decline didn't come because his ideas became obsolete. His Porto press, his Chelsea structure, his inter-tactical flexibility, these are foundations of modern football. His problem was not tactical extinction, it was emotional exhaustion. Years of fighting boards, media, referees, doctors, players, it hollowed him. Where he once thrived on conflict, now conflict consumed him. When he stood in front of microphones at Manchester United and said, "I have won more Premier League titles than the other 19 managers combined," it was not arrogance, it was remembrance. It was a man reminding the world and himself that he was once untouchable. The final truth of José Mourinho is this: he did not stop being special because football moved on. He stopped being special when he abandoned the one code that built his empire: protect the players and they will die for you. When he asked them to die, but stopped protecting them, the spell broke. And yet, even now, in stadiums from London to Rome to Istanbul, his name is sung. Not because he wins as he once did, but because he made people feel something football rarely offers: war, loyalty, betrayal, family, heartbreak. He was not just a manager. He was theater. He was tragedy. He was José Mourinho. So that is the tragic story of the Special One. Tell me which club was the real beginning of the end for him. Let me know if you think any modern team would hire him today. Share your most memorable Mourinho moment in the comments. I want to know which player you think he damaged the most. Follow for more football stories you will not hear anywhere else.